here, it says folks didn't sign the top sheet, they went through different sheets. So it's
Let me pull this out.
sheets for public.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is February the 5th, time for our meeting, 6 p.m. At this time, we'll call ourselves to order. And item 1, the proclamation observing Black History Month.
Okay. Proclamation observing Black History Month. Whereas noted historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson announced the second week of February as Negro History Week in 1926 in order to increase public awareness and appreciation of the important role that African Americans have played in shaping America's history. And whereas the United States government officially recognized Negro History Week in 1976 as part of the U.S. bicentennial, expanding it to Black History Month. And whereas America is a melting pot of cultures and ethnicities, all part of the land of the free, Black History Month fosters cultural awareness and understanding while encouraging education about contributions made by Americans of color. And whereas the omission of much of this history and contributions of African Americans from textbooks and other literature has impeded awareness and appreciation. And whereas the celebration of Black History Month is a positive way of recognizing the culture and history of African Americans as vital to the core beliefs and values of this society. And whereas the contributions of African Americans have been vital to the growth and development of the city of Monroe. Now, therefore, I, Bobby G. Kilgore, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Monroe, do hereby proclaim and observe February 2020 as Black History Month, and encourage the local citizenry to participate in activities that foster awareness and appreciation of African Americans' contributions to shaping the history of Monroe, Union County, North Carolina, and America. Here, with that witness that whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Monroe to be affixed this 5th day of February 2020.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept.
Have a motion, to have a second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Mayor, I'd like to, in the spirit of the proclamation that I just read, I'd like to introduce a motion to place a historic marker on Windsor Street at the site of the African American Hospital, the one and only one that has ever been in the city of Monroe, in recognition of Dr. J.L. Massey, who owned and operated the facility.
Okay. Is that something for a committee or?
No, I put it in the motions.
Oh, okay. Any, do I have a second?
I second that.
The commission, any discussion? I know where you're speaking of the property. I'm trying to think where would be a place. They built 2 new houses on that property.
Yeah,
or
perhaps
apartments.
right there right on the corner, the be at the corner.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, okay.
Thank you.
Item 2, public comment period. Anyone here who would like to address the council? Public comment period. I believe I got some coming. All right, I'll take them as if, in the order they have signed up. Mr. Lance Dunn.
Public hearing.
You can hold it for 3 minutes. We appreciate it, Mr. Dunn. We've got a crowd.
I will do my best.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you being near the front.
We tell everybody that, not just you.
It's nice to see most of you again, and glad to meet the rest of you. Appreciate it. Make it a little easier.
Okay. The reset then.
What's that?
Excuse me, man, we can't reset.
Should have been
receiving this.
This is allowable.
It's allowable, and Mr. Dunn needs to understand that his time has been running since he stepped to
Okay,
the
I'm
podium,
sorry.
so.
I was waiting. I'll keep it brief. I want to discuss trees that are in the right-of-way of my building that have been trimmed over 30 years and are now in danger of falling in the building. I've enclosed photos and conversations through the chain of command. So I come to ask the city to do what was promised. I did not decline the option to have these trees removed. It was never offered to me until recently. The offers were retracted when I asked for action. Our building's in harm's way. David Lucor got a quote of $13,000 to remove the trees. I can get it done for half that price. I'm asking for the city to do what they promised to do or make a contribution to do so. This building is 100 years old. It is only in danger because of improper trimming. And I would just like to add that we've employed people in Monroe for 65 years. We've been a good citizen of the city, and we paid over $50 million in wages during that period of time. I'm asking the city to please remove these trees or help me do it. I hope I haven't run over. If you have any questions, please contact me, or if you have any now, I'll be glad to address them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next I have signed up is another Mr. Don Haynes Street. Carry over. All right. We'll go to Miss Loretta.
Evening. It's good to see all of you. It's been a while. Loretta Milan, son, 2923 Meadow Creek Lane, Monroe. I am understanding that our city council has a 2-day retreat coming up where you're going to do some serious planning for the coming year. And I just want to remind you, litter still needs a lot of attention. Every time I'm out picking up, I'm reminded that I can't keep doing this day after day, year after year, and recruiting people to keep picking up. We somehow have to find a way to empower people, to inspire people to not litter in the first place. And honestly, I don't know how to even begin with that task. So again, as we did in the past, we're asking the city council to consider a task force. It does not have to be a new committee. I know you all are up to here with committees, but it could be a subcommittee of maybe our safety committee, of any number of committees. The Public Enterprise Committee deals with litter and with water quality and environmental issues. So I'm just here to make another plea for the organization Litter Busters of Union County to become a voice that my city, which is the county seat, and as such, I would be very proud to become a voice for litter abatement in Union County that other cities in our county can follow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. This time we'll go to the consent agenda.
Here, I would just ask you to ask if there's anyone else.
Is anyone else who would like to speak to the council? Hearing none, we'll go to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The City Council uses the consent agenda to consider items that are non-controversial and routine. consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a council member or citizen with the consent of council. The consent agenda contains the following items. Item number 3 is for the purpose of calling a public hearing to receive public comment on March 3rd on the question of annexation is requested by Timothy James Belk and Lorraine Belk to rezone property by amending the Code of Ordinances, section 156.106, titled Official Zoning Map, and section 156.98, titled Conditional Districts Established, from City of Monroe R40 and Union County RA40 to conditional districts Stewart's Crossing, and to adopt a resolution directing the clerk to investigate a petition on the question of annexation. Item 4 is for the purpose of adopting a budget amendment to appropriate $26,299 for the reactivation and enhancement of one of the airport's aviation fuel tanks. Item 5 is for the purpose of adopting 2 budget ordinances. The first concerns appropriating funds in the amount of $80,000 as a change order with J.D. Goodrum for the paving of the driveway and parking lot at the new corporate hangar at our airport. The second concerns appropriating funds in the amount of $48,000 for professional services by Gardner Johnson Incorporated for exhibit development, design, layout at the Monroe Science Center. Item 6 is for the purpose of calling 3 public hearings to receive public comments on March 3rd. The first of those 3 hearings involves considering whether to declare the property at 509 Beard Street unfit for human habitation and the request to proceed to demolition. Second and third hearings involve requests to rezone property by amending the Code of Ordinances, section 156.106, titled Official Zoning Map, and section 156.98, entitled Conditional Districts Established. The second of those involves rezoning property located at the corner of Sechrist Shortcut and Fowler Sechrist Road from residential low density R40 to conditional district Mendenhall Oaks. And the third involves rezoning property located at the intersection of Olive Branch Road and Morganville Road from general industrial to conditional district Scotch Meadows. Item 7 is for the purpose of calling a special planning meeting between City Council and the Planning Board to be held on February 26th at 4 p.m. for discussion and direction concerning the rewrite of the Unified Development Ordinance. Item 8 is for the purpose of awarding the purchase contract to Altec Industries, Inc. in the amount of $241,035 for a 55-foot bucket truck to be used by the electric department. The purchasing process was performed through Sourcewell, a cooperative purchasing program. Item 9 is for the purpose of accepting the recommendation from General Services Committee and staff to terminate the offer to purchase and sell agreement and resolution that rescinds the approval of the acquisition to acquire real property from the heirs of Susie Gorman, and to direct staff not to pursue any additional property for the future expansion of Hillcrest Cemetery. Item 10 is for the purpose of accepting the recommendation of General Services Committee and the staff to fence the existing sections of Hillcrest Cemetery located off Adams Street and to approve a budget ordinance in the amount of $138,300, transferring those monies from the general fund for that purpose. Item 11 involves minutes and reports lettered A through K. Item 11A involves financial reports for January, and as a summary, I'll highlight several groups of fund balances. The total fund balance is $33 million and change. A few of the subsets of total fund balance involves fund balance reserved by policy, which is $10,681,100. The unassigned general fund balance is $4.5 million, and the total assigned fund balance is $3.6 million. There are 5 sets of minutes lettered 11B through F. Item 11G is summary of contracts awarded, change orders approved, and city manager settlement of claims. And there were 28 contracts for the period totaling $317,000 in change. Item 12 is for the purpose of approving 2 sets of resolutions that request NCDOT's approval. The first is for the installation of 2 slogan signs which read, first of which is litter stops with you, and the second slogan is where Heartland meets High Tech, to be placed at 12 locations that are at the entryways into Monroe in conjunction with the optional Welcome to Monroe signs. The second resolution is for the installation of signs in conjunction with the optional Welcome to Monroe signs at two basic locations, US 601 North and South, to commemorate the Union Academy 1A Women's Soccer State Champions of 2018, and US 74 East and West to commemorate Union Academy's 1A Women's Soccer State Championship of 2019. Item 13 is for the purpose of approving tax releases for the month of December, the amount of $43,569.24 that was created by a change or reduction in value for the for the city of Monroe by the Union County Tax Assessor. Mayor, members of the City Council, that concludes my summary of items placed on the consent.
Move we approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That is passed. Item 14, zoning map amendment request to rezone property located at 303 Dale Street from single-family residential conditional district. This is a public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Doug Britton, the Planning Department. As stated, this is a zoning map amendment request filed by Greg Fail of Ground 40 for the property located at 303 Dale Street. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from R10 single-family residential to conditional district Ground 40 Farm Dale Street. This item was tabled at the January City Council meeting. Going to the site, the subject property is outlined in blue. The orange line running along the edge of the property is the current city limits. So this is located outside of city limits, but this is our ETJ or extraterritorial jurisdiction where we have zoning and building permit control over it. West Franklin Street is located at the bottom of the map. This is Colony Road and Russian Street. And this was the previous location of the old food line off of West Franklin Street as well. As stated, the subject property is zone R10. Everything you see to the north, east, and portion to the south is R10, single-family residential. The pink to the south, which was the Food Line Shopping Center, is GB, and to the west is R20, and this is the conditional district Crow's Nest, which is an event facility for weddings and such. The applicant is requesting a conditional district in order to utilize the property at 303 Dale Street for a halfway house facility for recovering addicts, as well as offering agricultural, educational opportunities, community service, counseling, and ministry services and events. This site is currently improved with a existing 1,100 square foot house and a barn that is approximately 2,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting to utilize the existing structures on the site, as well as constructing 12 additional 450 square foot structures that would be approximately 15 foot by 30 foot, as well as a 2,000 square foot barn, which would be roughly 50 by 40. So to help you with the site, again, the property is outlined in blue. This location is the existing 1,100 square foot house. This is the approximately 2,000 square foot barn. And this is where they're wanting to build the structures and have the 2,000 square foot barn in the middle of those structures. And these structures would be used to house people that are in their treatment program. This is a picture of, the bottom picture is the existing house out on site. And then the top picture is one of the structures that that's actually out on site currently right now, that they're wanting to have 11 more of these on site to house people there in their treatment program. As far as density dimensional standards, the project would be required to meet all the existing requirements for the density, and obviously the house and the barn are existing, so there would be no issue with setbacks. But anything built new would have to meet setbacks. Parking, obviously since it was a house and barn, it was last used as a single-family residential structure, and so it does utilize gravel, and they're wishing to keep the gravel and obviously expand it. for just general circulation and parking. Stormwater, stormwater will be evaluated and reviewed if the project is approved by City Council at the building permit stage of the process. And building standards and fire department, that would be reviewed at the time. If this project is approved by City Council, they'd have to submit full plan review for all the structures on site and any structures that are added to the site. To basically, because right now there's no permits issued for it right now, so what they would have to do is move it from a last use as a residential setting home to non-residential. And so they'll go through the building permit review process for that. As far as the future land use, the property does fall within the traditional, which is this location right here. The traditional, just kind of a brief synopsis, is designates this area's traditional land use, surrounds the downtown core and is anchored by city's most historic neighborhoods. This designation allows for residential, small-scale commercial, office, and medical uses. Staff, as with all rezonings, we are required to notify everybody within 150 feet of the property. The yellow bubble indicates that 150-foot buffer, and the area, the ones highlighted in blue, that's what we actually notified for the project. Typically, we go a little bit above and beyond to make sure we meet those notification requirements. The property was posted as well at least 10 days prior and advertised in the paper. This project was presented to the planning board. The planning board did recommend approval with the following conditions. Permits will be required to be obtained prior to any construction or site alterations. Number 2, all construction or site alterations shall meet any local and state requirements. And number 3, a row of trees consisting of both evergreen and deciduous trees will be required to be planted in between the living quarters and the gravel access road to screen the residential zone properties to the south. And basically where I'm speaking of is in this area right here. These are the structures, again, this is the pole barn, to do something because just across on the other side of the railroad tracks is the neighborhood. So do a row of evergreen deciduous trees in this area to provide buffer for those adjacent residential homes. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any, and the applicant's here as well.
Doug,
Yes, ma'am.
2 questions, please. What was the dimension of those 11 other structures in question? You gave the dimensions and I didn't get them.
Well, the dimensions were 15 by 30. There are 450 square feet, and there's one out there now. So they want to do they've got one out there now that's not permits. So they need to permit that, and they want to build 11 more like that to house people there in their treatment program.
A facility that says how many people would allow to be housed in that.
The applicant he can better tell you what their plan is and how many people they want to have on site. But ultimately, that number will be determined based on the building and fire code when they go to submit.
Okay.
Would it not be also, I'm sorry, I thought.
Go ahead.
Would it not be also based on square footage of the house?
That will be determined when they go through that review process, because the house that, I mean, I'm not gonna say they don't have anybody living in the house, but I know the house they use for the offices, and then the barn, they use that for their dining area, and they might use it for other things too, but I know they use it for the dining area, so all that, you know, because obviously tonight is just the aspect of it, them being able to do this on this property from the zoning aspect of it, and then if this is approved by council tonight, then they will submit, you know, have plans drawn by engineer, architect, that would basically be reviewed to by all the departments involved in the city, engineering, fire, building, water resources, energy services, to make sure they're meeting, since they're going to bring it from a residential setting to a non-residential, meet all the codes. And that's when all that will be fully evaluated to how many people they can have per house, whether it has to be sprinkled and whatnot.
Okay. Last question. Those residents within the proximity of 150 feet that were notified, what was the general consensus of the replies that you got, questions that you got?
I only got 1 or 2 calls on this site right here, and basically they were just inquiring as to what they were doing.
But they didn't have a preference, yay or nay?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Was there a meeting held where they would have been allowed to come in and ask questions?
No, ma'am. The staff did instruct the applicant of recommend neighborhood meeting or neighborhood mail out, but the applicant has indicated they've been in close they've discussed this project with their neighbors.
But you did recommend that to them?
We suggested with all the projects that come before council, and it's not required. We just suggest it, and it's really left up to them. But they said they had been in contact with the neighbors of their projects.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll put this up there too, just as, obviously, this is council's actions for the night. So. Okay.
This is a public hearing, as I said, and at this time I'm going to take the names as they have signed in order. And the first one I've got is Mr. Kazar, John Wesley Kazar. And if you will, let's try to do 3 minutes. We've got a lot of folks.
Yes, sir. I am Wesley Kazai. I'm the Executive Director of Ground 40, and the property that's in question tonight for right now is 303 Dale Street. And what we have out there is a property that when I took it over, there was some promises made and some things done that were, not above board. And when I took over as the Executive Director, it was our first deal to get that handled with the need of the men who were still coming in, who were court appointed, who had been told they would come to our program, and we were kind of behind this 8 ball. So now we have a board who is an active board who stands over us, who advises us in many different ways on what we need to do next. We've moved to this property, and I think we maintain it very well. And speaking with the neighbors, the Crow's Nest, the Victorian's Crow's Nest, Shirley Hildred and Cofield Hildred, we work very closely with that couple. They use our men quite often to go up there. Miss Shirley, when she is afraid or something, she calls our men up there. Our men are the ones who run to her aid, no matter what the outcome is. But our program is not just designed to bring in a bunch of drug addicts, like everybody would like to believe. This is what our program is designed for. I'm going to throw these up on the screens while I'm talking to you. Let me flip it over. It's for guys to be placed back into society with their families. And I don't know how many graduates we have here tonight who have been successful in this, but I would stand to argue that we're one of the most successful things around here, and it doesn't cost the taxpayers any money. Our plea is just this: if we want to help this community, we don't want to hurt this community. We want to stand for this community. My grandmother was the first lady to run for city council. She didn't make it, but we have a very prominent family in this community. And I'm not fighting for this generation or most of the generations that's sitting out here, but you see this 6-year-old little kid right here. This is the generation that we're fighting for. Who cares about a lousy piece of property when all of our teenagers are dying, when all of our kids are dying? I stood at 30 funerals in the last 5 years of kids under 26 years old, and we're just tired of this. And this is the best response that we have seen. It's the best response that we have had. And yeah, I get it. Some of our guys have had some bad backgrounds. I have too myself. I've been arrested 82 times in Union County. What better leader to have over a bunch of men who've made a bunch of mistakes? I think over the past 5 years, the reputation that our ministry carries and that God has allowed me to carry has maintained itself with dealing with people who were constantly tarnishing their own reputations. I believe that we have maintained a right response in this community. And I think it's just a lack of knowledge on what we really do. We take these guys and we really disciple them and their families, and we have the community come out, and they grow with us. They work with us. I mean, we're the kind of guys that you would call to pick up the trash on the side of the road. You can call us. That's what we do. This is the community service that we do.
She will.
Yeah, and I pray that she does. I pray that she does. Because then you don't have to, our guys want to serve. We want to give back. We've taken so much. So guys, I thank you for your time on this property.
Mr. Kazai?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who makes up your board? I don't want the names, but tell me about their professions or their trades. What type of people make up your board?
I'll say John Hurley is our board chairman.
No, I don't want to know the
Okay.
names. I just want to know the makeup.
He owns his own business. He's a very, very successful business owner. He sells security systems, local, global. He's been doing addiction ministry for 35 years. He and another man founded the one inside the Union County Jail, which is where the Lord found me.
Is he a trained counselor?
I guess so. Not trained. No, probably not.
And the other member, how many?
We have
how
5
many
members on
the
our,
board?
we have 5 members on
What
the
about
board.
the other 4?
2 are pastors. Another owns his own business. Pretty successful in that. He's kind of more of a business aspect, building aspect, kind
And the
of.
other one, what is the last one? What?
Jack Kern has been doing prison ministry for 35 years as well. Just a kind of a group of all different kinds of people.
Thank you.
Mr. Kazai, if I could just ask if you could make sure that at the bottom of those papers you've got is not what Doug left.
Oh, it might be. No, I laid it right
Make
here.
sure, there you go.
There you go.
If you could turn it around.
Yeah.
That would
I will
help.
say this
Upside
on,
down.
I will say this on the paid counselors. All of our men who have went through our program have went to paid counselors and paid thousands of dollars, and they fail flat on their face.
Why do you think they failed?
Why do I think they fail? Because it's not about the Lord. Jesus is the answer. He's always been the answer. He'll never stop being the answer. It's been Jesus. He'll always. That's right. I believe that we teach these men a practical application of Scripture, practically, instead of just memorizing things or telling people that they're always going to be an addict. I was told I was always going to be an addict. I hadn't thought about getting high in the last 5 years, and I was a heroin addict for 10 years and thought that was who I was. But God made me something different, and He set me free.
John Hurley.
Good evening, Commissioner.
I failed to ask, we may have some of the, name would you address, please, for our record? I didn't say, we got yours. I failed to say that, so please.
Okay. I'm John Hurley, 2416 Lawyers Road West. I am the current board chairman of Ground 40. Tonight, I just want to share just a few minutes with you about the Dale Street property. I think it's absolutely a perfect location for Ground 40's ministry. And at the risk of being criticized a little bit, I believe that the Dale Street property was and is ordained by God for this ministry, for this time. It's privately located behind the Food Line Shopping Center right off of Franklin. It is lined by trees on all the borders and the railroad. There's one way in and one way out, and you would have to know where you're going to get there. So it's been there for 3 years, and Jason Guffey originally started this ministry, who was a friend of mine. It started as a year restoration program for men, and they were paying rent so they could go out and work and get back on their feet. He shortly after starting the ministry realized that wasn't working. He called me, knew I'd been in the addiction ministry for 35 years and asked me to become an advisor for him. I looked at what he was doing. He had no staff. His board was not active, and so I began to speak into his life and try to help him as much as I could. And he got me involved with their board, and they didn't see the same things that we saw, and so most of them ended up resigning. Jason and I continued to talk, and in a short period of time, he agreed that would bring Wesley on as the program director. Shortly after that, Jason just became completely worn out from having ministered there for about 2 years, night and day, without any help. He took a leave of absence. I continued to talk to him. During the leave of absence, he asked me if I would take the chairman of the board position, start a new board. If I would do that, he would sign all the assets of the corporation over to us, and that's what we did. As far as a question about the board of directors, I've been in business for myself for 53 years, former Chevrolet dealer in Charlotte, North Carolina, on American burglar alarms and intelligent homes. Jack Kernan has been in ministry in prison ministry for most of his life. And he is Wesley's mentor. He led him to the Lord in the Union County Jail. And Mark Hill is back here. I know he's here. Mark is a businessman. And then I don't believe Larry Gooch is here, but he's pastor at Hopewell Church. And also, okay, at Lee Park. Main thing, I will close with this. I've been in ministry for 35 years, and I've never witnessed anything like this in my life. Right here is the result of this ministry, this room full of people.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brian Thunderberg. Name and address, please, for our record, sir.
My name is Brian Thunderberg. I live at 135 Creekview Lane in Wingate, North Carolina. I've been born and raised in Union County my entire life, and I also serve for Eddie Cathy in the Sheriff's Office. So seeing a lot of these people behind me that actually have been in our jail, in our facility. You heard Wesley give his testimony about being in jail 10 years. I've locked him up. I've given him a tray. I've seen him at his worst. I saw him at one point in time where I thought he was going to die. I looked at him then with what he was dealing with, and I told him that if he didn't get right with the Lord, he was going to die, and his kids wouldn't have a father. God did a miracle in the Union County Jail. Wesley accepted Christ. And just with that, it turned this county on fire. Everybody here can say they've seen that. You can watch Facebook and see what these people do. That property there, like Mr. Early said, it is ordained by God. And as a law enforcement officer that sees people in and out using drugs, and we're constantly dealing with them, to get to see the ones that are here that are not using them anymore, that are with their families and being fathers, that is awesome. That's what we signed up to wear the badge, because we want to see a change. We're not perfect, but the fact that we're able to lead them to that, to help them get the change, that's what this property is all about. So if you take anything from me on this without the sobbing, just know that God's working in Union County. The hub is the city of Monroe, and you've let that happen. So I just ask that you lay it on your heart to keep that happening, to let the Lord work here in Monroe, to spread in Union County, maybe spread through the state, continue to grow, because that's what this nation needs more than anything. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. John Painter, sir.
Hi, John Painter, 1035 Waterview Lane, Monroe, North Carolina. I think I know about everybody that's in here, but I grew up in Monroe, lived here all my life, graduated from Monroe High School. I've practiced law 39 years here in Monroe. And I have seen, I think I'm in a sort of a unique position. I've seen this addiction and what's done to this community and the whole country. And I've sent clients to programs, and I've gotten the court to approve programs that they go to, and it's been like a revolving door because it's sort of a Band-Aid. Most of these men, a true addict that's involved with, say, heroin or meth, 28 days in the treatment program is a Band-Aid, and it's going to come off as soon as they get out. Within a week or 10 days, they're back to doing what they were doing. They don't have the tools to manage, to cope. Ground 40, when it first started, I was skeptical of it, and there were some issues, and the courts were sort of questionable. They were trying to send people to it, but we weren't having, in my opinion, weren't having results that justified trust and faith in it. But when Wesley took over and they got a real board behind them and they had some direction, and I think most of the direction came from God, right behind them, then it started turning the program around. And so what this program has done is legitimize itself with the courts. The courts now trust Ground 40 to make a difference in these people's lives, to give them an opportunity so that the courts don't have to deal with them again. So they put their families back together. And they become productive, and everybody's proud of them. And that's what it's all about in this community, is lifting everybody up and trying to help our neighbor. And that's what this program does. It's successful. They're dedicated. they're hardworking, but most of all, they all follow God in whatever they do. And so I'll be glad to answer any questions.
And it's a program that is sanctioned by the court system.
Well, there's no such thing as sanctioning, but the judges
They
all
use-
know,
they-
yes ma'am,
they
they all
send
know
people to it.
its reputation. And you tell a judge that they're been going to enroll in Ground 40, and they'll continue it and let them work the program
Okay.
and succeed, and then come back to court. And the court then has a basis for being lenient and saying, well, you've done what we couldn't do through the court. We can order you to treatment, but you've actually done the treatment and proven that you're worthy of us giving you a second chance. And that's the real blessing of this program. So I'd ask you to approve what they're asking you to approve tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Brian Hass.
My name is Brian Hass, 1917 Windmere Drive, and I just wanted to express my support for Wesley and Ground 40. I've known Wes for 4 years, and many of the guys who've been through the program through Lee Park Church, and they've been extremely helpful, great guys, and he's doing amazing work. So, thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Rollins.
My name is Brandon Rollins. I reside at 4077 Rocky River Road in South Carolina, Pleasant Hill, South Carolina. I come to you tonight standing here as the father of a son that used to be an addict. But thanks to the good Lord and the guys at Ground 40 discipling him and pouring into him, he's clean since July 13th of 2019. I also stand here tonight before you as a director of a jail facility in Lancaster, South Carolina. I'm the director of the operations at Lancaster County Detention Center. And I just want to, I guess, encourage you guys to think about currently the courts in Lancaster. You asked about the courts up here. Our courts in South Carolina are court ordering guys here because they see what this program is doing. You have several guys that have graduated this program that are from Lancaster. You have several guys that are currently in the program that are from Lancaster. You guys have a unique ability in this county to have something that many states want and many states desire, and many counties want and many counties desire. The things that are going on at Ground 40 are nothing short of miracles, because statistics say that these guys that are on heroin won't ever get off of it. But God's stronger than that, and God's better than that. So these guys are succeeding. They're off of heroin. They're following. They're reuniting with their families, and they're raising their children. As somebody that watches guys come in and out of a county detention center, I've been doing law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement for 20 years. Went through an officer-involved shooting in 2011. Was shot by a 17-year-old that was on drugs. So I know the impacts of addiction and the things that go on with that. I turned around and lived it in my own home with a son who was addicted to heroin for 2.5 years. But again, through Ground 40, through the ministry there, through Wes, through all of the guys that pour into these people, me and my wife have been involved with Ground 40 since March of 2019, when our son came the first time to Ground 40. We come up here, we spend our money, we eat here, we're here 5 nights a week. And all of these guys that are here supporting Ground 40 pour into these guys. You guys, as a city council, have a unique opportunity to make Monroe something special for the program that's going on at Ground 40, and stand behind it and support it. They're changing lives and they're saving lives in the things that they're doing. So I just ask you to consider that tonight.
Stephanie Cox. Am I saying that right?
I'm Stephanie Cox. I am, my family's been here in Union County for many, many generations.
Address, please.
Sir?
Your address.
I'm sorry, 2016 Irby Road, Monroe, 28112. My family's been here for many, many generations. My roots are deep. But tonight I stand here in front of all of you as, unfortunately, as one of those moms who has been terribly affected by the unimaginable pain of addiction. My firstborn child of 3, Alexander Phillips, passed away in 2015 from a heroin drug overdose. But in my heart of hearts, I believe that had Ground 40 been available, that it would be Trenton standing here tonight talking to all of you and not me. And he would have you all mesmerized with the gift of gab that he had. Of course, I'm a nervous wreck. But anyway, why don't we, with purpose, reach out more to help people who are suffering with addiction and are in this terrible, terrible place? Do we just give up on the percentage of our community that are struggling with addiction and this horrific disease? We are not to condemn, but to try to help save. Ground 40 is accomplishing miracles. Please, y'all, give them the opportunity. Please help them to continue to help our children, to help our neighbors, and to help our fellow human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Stephen Hicks.
Stephen Hicks, 4921 Quail Ridge Drive, Charlotte. I'm here as a parent. I met Wesley and Ground 40. I've been associated with them since December of 2018. And Ground 40 is a great place. I'm a pastor here in Union County, North Carolina, Christ Baptist Church on Highway 218. My son has been in and out of programs. My son has been in and out of jail for 18 years. Me and his mother could not go to bed at night and lay our heads down and close our eyes without having to worry. We spent money, we spent love, we spent prayers, we spent time, and then we found Ground 40. And one of the great things about Ground 40 is that me as a father, me as a pastor, I could not put my son at Ground 40. My son had to make that decision himself that he wanted to go to Ground 40, a rehab place to where he could find some relief, he could find some freedom. But he not only found that, but he found great love. He found the Lord Jesus Christ as his Savior. And all of these gentlemen here, I don't know each and every one of them personally. I know Wesley and I know some of these other gentlemen here. They do wonderful work down there. The very first time that I took him down there, we left and I looked over and I said to myself, I wonder if he'll stay this time. And I didn't have to wonder very long because it was 2 weeks before I could visit. And when I went back to visit, I had already started to see the change, and not only started to see the change in him, but I had seen the change in other people that had ministered to him. And what a wonderful job that they do. We've got a serious problem in this country. We've got a serious problem in Monroe, in Union County, and we need more places like this, but they're doing a great job down there at Ground 40. And I just think it's a necessary thing. It's something that is here and it's needed, and it needs to stay there and needs to stay open. And we need to put all our support, prayers, and love towards these people that are helping our children and young people. And my son is not a child. He's 36 years old, so I know what it's like to experience that kind of disaster in your life for 18, 19 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. McCall. Can't read the first name.
Sorry, you probably couldn't read my handwriting. I thought I was signing in at first, but I'm ready to speak now. My name's Amber McCall. My address is 4007 Cheshire Glen Drive, Monroe, North Carolina 28110. I sent all of you an email this morning, and hopefully you read it. And if you didn't, I'm going to share just a little bit right now. And I poured my heart out this morning to let you know why I serve at Ground 40, why my family serves at Ground 40. And yes, my family, I have 3 children, and we all visit the farm, and we do what we can for everyone there. And I come from a broken home. My dad left when I was 7. I'm an only child. My dad was an alcoholic. I did not have a relationship with him because he always chose alcohol over child support, time with me, and he never knew my children. and he died when he was 54 years old in 2009. Alcohol took him away from us, but I know without a shadow of a doubt, if my daddy would have had a Ground 40, he would still be here today and be able to enjoy his family, his precious family. And we give in support in honor of him because I want to see other men reunited with their families and their children, and so their children do not have to grow up and feel like I did. And I know that they won't, because I've seen them as they are reunited, and I've loved their children and love on their children. And I just pray that you will listen to the hearts of everyone here today and vote yes for Ground 40 and move out of the way and let God continue working, because he's going to work regardless. He is going to move and keep moving because he is blessed in this ministry. But I just hope and pray that you can say yes to Ground 40 and let us quit attending all these meetings and keep working for Ground 40. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dan Shive.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak for just a couple minutes or less tonight. I guess I sort of felt compelled when I found out about this hearing to speak and share something, with you. Wesley would probably contradict that. He wouldn't say that I was compelled. He would probably say, well, the Lord told you needed to say something, right? I met Wesley a few years ago when I attended a seminar down at Wingate University on opioid addiction. The sheriff was there. Wesley was there, where he told a lot of his testimony. Ms. Cox was there. There were several people who do support kinds of things, for drug addicts. And I invited Wesley to be on my radio program, and where he really went into more depth about being a drug addict. And the more I got to know Wesley, I told him one day, and I didn't want to embarrass myself, but I just felt compelled to tell him. I said, Wesley, my opinion of drug addicts has always been, well, let's just throw them in jail and throw away the key. Just lock them up. But he changed my mind. He completely changed my mind as to what I was just astounded at what he had been through, and to the success that Ground 40 has had. And and the thing about it is, this deals, drugs show no boundaries, no income levels. We probably all know somebody who is either on drugs or has had some kind of addiction problems. So it covers everybody. And what Ground 40 has done, and by adding this new service to these guys, you look around here, these guys want the help. That's why they came to Ground 40. They want the help. And so they're willing to do whatever it takes, to get them back with their families, get their self-esteem back, do whatever it takes for them to be a good citizen, a good husband, a good parent. And I have just, been amazed. They do a lot, as Wesley was saying, they do a lot of community service. And my significant other has used them on several occasions. And I see several of these guys here tonight who have done work at her house. This gentleman can fix anything. I'm telling you, he can fix anything. But, I just want to be in support of Ground 40 and what Wesley does. And these guys, they just deserve it. And if we're ever going to do anything about drug addiction, try to eradicate it, we need programs more and more like Ground 40. And I just think I got thinking, about the comments I was going to make, and just to close to say, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing for the city of Monroe to show their support of organizations like Ground 40, and for these young men who are trying to get their lives back together, and for you all to support their permits and their requests. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Danny Hunter.
How y'all doing? Thank y'all for giving us all this time to talk to y'all about this Ground 40. My name's Danny Hunter. I'm 6909 Steel Road, Waxhaw. A couple of things you talk about. Facilities are state-run or owned by other corporations. I can talk about that because between the insurance and me and my wife, we spent over $100,000 on my son. Sitting down to Florida twice, it was $90,000. Each time he came back from every place. Within 2 weeks, back on drugs. Living in ditches. We have his boy right now. And no place ever worked. It was 4 or 5 weeks before I went to visit my Ground 40, so I didn't believe in Ground 40 neither. I said, all I could do was pray for the boy. But the first day I stepped on the property, I could feel God on the property. I looked around and saw how men was doing. The men were carrying on out there. I seen my boy and I see a change in him. And it wasn't but a few weeks later, he gave his life to the Lord. Because he had somebody that stayed obedient to the Lord, especially Keziah, that led him to the Lord. I think a lot of these people, all these men at Ground 40, every one of them, I think they're wonderful men. They pour into these men something that most places will not pour into them. And that's the biblical way to live, the biblical way to be a father, to be a husband, to be a citizen of the community you live in. And that changes a man. When he knows how to live, he can walk away from there with his head held high because he knows he's doing the right thing. He's been trained by people that love him because God puts a love into you when you become a child of his. You're going to love somebody regardless of their situation, regardless of their sin, whether it's drinking, whether it's fornication, whether it's drugs, it don't matter. We put a lot of drug addicts down. I was guilty of that myself before I became a child of God. They're no different than me. I've got things I'm ashamed of, I'm sure as every one of us in this building does. But I thank God for this program, and I beseech y'all to approve this because it is a great help. It's saving men's lives on this earth, to live on this earth, but it's also giving them to the man that can save their life. They spend eternity in heaven. That's pretty much all I have to say. But these are good people. This is a good program. And it does so much for the community. A lot of people don't see it. But if you ever had one of your children had to go through that program, you would see it. And I beseech you to approve it because I'd hate to see another child die on the street. And maybe for one of us that hasn't had that problem with addiction, what if it was one of our kids that died on the street that really had no place to go? That would show them the love and support that is out there that can be showed to them. I thank you very much. And y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Jim of Tom Williams Road.
Mezzanotte.
Yes, sir. I was afraid I'd cut it up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Jim Mezzanotte. I live at 1523 Tom Williams Road, Monroe, 28112. I have been an attorney for 52 years, a father for 57 years, 58 years. I have a son who is 54, who was an addict for 21 years, who is now on the board of directors of a faith-based recovery center in Brunswick County. I have a daughter who's an alcoholic and on opioids, 52 years old, currently on opioids. In the 90s, I was president of, I am chairman of the board of Rebound Christian Rehabilitation Center in Charlotte, which is now Charlotte Rescue Mission. John Hurley, during that period of time, was on my board. I don't know, I heard you ask a question as to whether they had any certified counselors. I don't know of anybody in the surrounding counties who's more certified than John Hurley when it comes to addiction recovery. We had a very good record at Rebound. It was known all over the country. That record is nothing at all like the record that it's at Ground 40. I had the honor of meeting Wesley a couple of years ago. I've been ordained as an elder in the Presbyterian Church for 23 years. I've finished about half of my MDiv credits and been running Bible study classes for 20-something years. And ladies and gentlemen, I am learning a lot from Wesley Keziah. The Lord has touched his heart and in turn touches the heart of every man there. I've had the honor of teaching there for 1.5 years. I've watched all of these men who are now, if you want to see the value of Ground 40, Greg, would you stand up? Matthew, Bobby, Cody. I saw these men when they came in. There's just a fog over their face. And now they're leading men. And they're running this operation and doing a darn good job. Monroe. Monroe in Union County is fortunate beyond their dreams to have these men. And the biggest thing about Ground 40 is that it is faith-based. I have watched for years. I have a cousin who is going to come down. He's in his 60s. He will be at Ground 40 on February 18th. He has been in and out of rehab centers for years. And I have every confidence that he will be recovered after he leaves Ground 40. I have watched the men come in with just a fog and leave with the countenance of an angel on their face. The Lord is doing a mighty work. He is touching these men. He has touched these men who in turn touch others, and they're in the community. I've been at Lee Park for 12 years. These men are in our parking lot. They're in our church. They're working constantly all the time. If you need anything, they give it to you. The men that are there take all of the men that come in under their care while they get through the early stages. It is an unbelievable program. I've used up my, I could talk all day, Mr. Mayor.
I'll give you an extra minute. Thank you very much. Mr. Eric Thomas.
Eric Thomas, 2103 Stafford Street. The council's heard all the good that you can hear. There's nothing bad about this organization. I challenge you to just think about, if you vote this down, what tells you that the next bed the next person that goes down there, they don't have a bed for, won't mentor anybody in this building's child or grandchild out of this problem of addiction. They very well could. And if that bed's not there, and then we could lose another one. Just please think about it. This is a great value to Union County. I'm working a graduate out of this program right now, and he is at work every day when he's supposed to be there. He leaves well after when he's supposed to be gone. He is a good product of this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Michelle King.
Good evening, Council. Michelle King, 802 East Franklin Street in Monroe. As a young girl, about this little one's age, I can remember my uncle battling a war with substance abuse, alcoholism, and drug addiction that started in his early teens. It was ministries such as the Ground 40 that provided my family, my grandmother and mother, with hope and support during the most challenging years of his life. My Uncle Steve was a kind soul, and God had gifted him with the exceptional artistic ability. He was in Rebound in Charlotte for many years. He is not here to stand up and give a success story, sadly. I would imagine that many of the men that are at Ground 40 are like my Uncle Steve, no doubt. I'm not here this evening to challenge the success of the Ground 40 ministry. You know the testimonies, you've listened to them tonight, you'll hear more. They are there. They are doing good work. I'm not going to talk about their methods of treatment or the vetting process. But there are two issues here at play. First is developing our city and growing our economies. Secondly is helping to support those that fall with drug addiction, that suffer from it. But you cannot ruin one objective for the other. I believe that City Council can do both to help. But approving the rezoning provides little or no chance for the outside investment opportunities that are needed for our city, Monroe. Did you know that the triangle there at Dale Street in Franklin are historical structures, the oldest of principal houses in the Waxhaw-Weddington Road Historic District? They date back to 1856. These homes and surrounding properties play a significant part in the history, no doubt, and we need to preserve those sites. I believe that we can do better, by Ground 40 than the Dale Street or the Charlotte locations that we'll be speaking about. There are alternative sites that are best suited for the success of Ground 40 initiatives. Perhaps Lee Park Church is a stalwart supporter, or Christ Baptist would consider engaging our community and our faith-based organizations on helping Ground 40 with more suitable property where they can grow and carry out their mission. We can still develop our city, get the investment opportunities that we need, put into the city the very monies that help support the Ground 40 programs. We cannot let go of that. So why don't we work together? What a great example and testimony of Christ in our community. If Lee Park and other faith-based organizations were to come together, I pledge my services. There are others in the historic district and on near Dale Street who have stepped up to say, I will help them. I will help them find a better, more suitable location where they can grow and provide the services they need. The drug problem is not going away. And the lady was right. We must do more. But the locations being proposed will not do the best that Ground 40 deserves. And for that, I would ask that this council deny the request for the rezoning at Dale Street, but help to seek other alternatives for more suitable locations that will best serve the needs of the community for the greater good of our community. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna close up public hearing.
I would ask if there's anyone else to speak for, in case someone didn't sign up.
That concludes the sign up. Are there anyone else here who would like to speak at this public hearing?
I want to speak about the next.
Okay, I will get that one, sir, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, you want to speak on the,
Yeah, I hadn't signed up,
all right,
but
you-
what I was going to speak about for the next,
well, I've got you down for the next one.
yeah.
But you
but
what?
I think I'd like to bring it up now.
Well, let me ask you, which, are you speaking on the Dale Street that we own?
Dale
Street, okay, because I've got you signed up for
Yeah.
Charlotte Avenue.
I was
Okay,
signed up
you
for
wanna speak
the
on
other,
Dale?
yeah.
Okay, go right ahead.
This is really difficult.
I'm sorry, ma'am, for the record, we know who you
Oh,
are. However,
okay,
the record
Loretta Milan's son, 2923 Meadow Creek Lane, Monroe. In addition to being known as the litter queen, and that is my passion right now, I am also a holistic nurse. And as such, I believe that we must be very broad in the treatment of addictions, and the thing that I had hoped I wouldn't have to talk about, sex offenders. And so it's out on the table right now for me. I have to know, do you all treat sex offenders?
Yes, sir, you may come and answer. We're going to still hold it 3 minutes now.
Okay, 3 minutes. So the properties of, just so anybody's aware, of Old Charlotte and the farmhouse will not house sex offenders. We do help sex offenders because I have kids, and my father was a sex offender. There's 2 reasons, but they will not be housed at the farm or the Old Charlotte houses. It is in our paperwork and all these other things that the houses that will house sex offenders is the one that's been approved for 15 years and not had a problem with anybody. And it's been there, and it's going to continue to stay there on Franklin Street.
Okay, well, the way that I found out about this is that I get notices from the FBI, and right now there are 4 sex offenders living.
At the farm?
No, living on the Franklin Street.
Yes, ma'am, and
that's-
I'm sorry, for purposes of the
Yeah.
mayor's gonna tell me to do this.
Okay.
Make sure that one of you is talking at a time, because
Oh.
it's, if y'all wanna have a colloquy between the 2, y'all can go outside.
Okay, well, I think that my question has been answered, and I, like you, have had sex offenders in my immediate family, and they are a hard nut to crack. Also, as a holistic nurse, I don't think in my own investigation into the services you provide, it's strictly faith-based. You are not taking advantage of other Union County licensed officials to help with. Is that so? No. Okay.
We use a lot of resources from Union County.
Okay. Thank you. I really needed to clear that up for myself.
All right, thank you very much. Are there anyone else on Verdale Street? Yes, sir, please.
I'd like to speak to the financial viability of Ground 40. It's been amazing what has happened over the last 2 years. We do very well fund-wise from the community, from churches, and it's amazing how all the churches have come together to support the ministry. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we're financially sound. We have savings put aside in order to move forward with codes that are necessary to be met and whatever else is built out there.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone else who would like to speak on this particular one that has not spoken? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Let's see. Close public, take action.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt resolution approving land development plan compliance.
Second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the 303 Dale Street.
Motion to adopt ordinance amending section 156.106.
Second.
I have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Motion to adopt ordinance amending section 156.98.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none? That's the last one.
That's it. It's approved.
That was D we just did.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You've done BC.
Okay, all those 303 Dale Street passed. Now we'll move to, let me get my paperwork. Item 15. We'll move to item 15, zoning map request for rezone property located at 2846 Old Charlotte Avenue.
2830 and 2840, Mayor. I just make sure you
Okay,
name all.
2830 and 2840.
3, actually.
He
30,
already read
40,
30.
and 46.
He already read 46. I was just making sure you got 30 and 40.
All three.
All right, again, Mayor and Council, this is a zoning map and text amendment request filed by Greg Fell of Ground 40 for the properties located at 2830, 2840, and 2846 Old Charlotte Highway. The applicant is requesting to rezone these properties from R20 Single Family Residential to Conditional District, Ground 40 Old Charlotte Highway. Subject properties are outlined in blue, located along Charlotte Highway. Proximity is Carroll Street right here, McKenzie Lane, and Open Book Baptist Church at that location. Properties, I say that are zoned R20 and are outlined in blue. Properties to the south are R20 as well. To the west, as far as is residential multifamily and general business, as well as B1 SU, which is for the Open Book Baptist Church, well, was approved. The applicant in this case is requesting to rezone the 3 homes that are currently on the site to be used just for halfway houses. Just the kind of difference between this one and the farm site, and the applicant better speak to I can, but the farm site is where they bring people in and they are fully treated, and then these locations would be the last stop before they're fully integrated back into society. There would be no more than 5 persons living in a house, and they would have a counselor that would be over all 3 houses. The square footage of the homes, the one at 2830 is 1,144 square feet. The one at 2840 is 1110, and finally the one at 2846 is 1,368 square feet. And these are pictures of the houses. They're just standard single-family houses that's been there for years. The land development plan for this area identifies the area as suburban, which you see everything in the yellow. The suburban is classified as far as land uses allowed in this area include residential uses that typically take the form of neighborhoods within uniform housing types and densities and mix of housing types and lot sizes preferred in suburban locations. As far as for this hearing tonight, this is a notification map we mailed out, and just like the last time, the bubbled area as far as what we're required to notify based on the 150-foot requirement to notify from a public hearing, and everything highlighted in blue is what we actually notified. This project was presented to the planning board and was recommended for approval with the following conditions. 1, permits will be required to be obtained for all 3 dwellings to convert them from a single-family home to a halfway house, as well as no structures can house more than 5 individuals, including supervisors as allowed by the North Carolina Building and Fire Code. I'll be glad to answer any questions at this time as well.
Council, have any questions?
Okay. We had a committee that studied the issue. I'd like to hear what report they have.
Mr. Holloway, I think, met with some folks. Mr. Holloway, can you give a brief synopsis?
Councilman Gordon and I met with the board of directors and Wesley and Cody. Basically, get just a sense of where Ground 40 has been, what the plans were for the future, the success rate they've had, and basically it's just an information of that type. Also, we did discuss using the properties, the number of persons that could be in a home, number of persons, counselor. I understood there's going to be a counselor in each home, though. Is that not correct?
From my discussion with them, it could either be 1 in each home, or there could be 1 that's over all 3 homes, not necessarily 1 in each home.
One thing that impressed me, and maybe Freddie might want to address it also, no one stays in the home during the daytime. They all have a place to go to work or do some other activity. If somebody doesn't want to adhere to that, they go back out and stay at the farm. So there's nobody during the home in the daytime, the idleness in the devil's workshop kind of thing. Freddie, do you want to add anything to it?
I really can't add a great deal to what Marion has said, and certainly I don't think anybody here could make any comments derogatory to the Ground 40 organization, what they do. It would be more appropriate, I think, for me to make the comments that I have once the motion is made for this petition.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, council?
I'll say I was very impressed with the dedication of the board of directors, and every one of them showed up. Even one of them getting ready to leave to go overseas, so that spoke volumes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I will take this as they've signed up. I have 9 people who've signed up to speak. And then the first one is Mr. John Wesley Kazire.
I don't believe all of us need to speak on this case. You kind of heard what we have, and we don't want to take up y'all's time too much more than what we have to. But on these houses, the reason that we went for the rezoning was merely because we want to make sure that we stay attached to these men. What we're doing and what we're fighting for is for 5 guys to stay in those houses. That way a counselor can be with them at night. By city ordinance and the law, 4 people who are unrelated can live in a house together. All we're doing with our men moving to these houses who were going to be rented to them anyway is saying, you know what, we'll walk this out with them. We'll make sure that this community is still safe, because the lady who was going to rent these houses to these men was going to do it without our support or with our support. And we stepped beside her and said, you know what, we'll support this. We'll walk you through this. We're very confident in what we teach these men. But our confidence really relies on what we do after they graduate our program. We want to see them successfully transition, and that means they needs to be in a neighborhood-style home to understand how to interact with people, neighbors, community, all these things that go on. If we bring these guys straight from the farm, then right into a community neighborhood setting without this kind of transitional piece, it's very detrimental. We are one of the only programs that does a program and a transitional piece. We're not just a halfway house, and that's what we're trying to get people to understand, is we are a transitional program. We walk it back out with these guys, and when they get into these properties, we don't have to bring down the property level, but you know what? Who cares if you bring the property level down? If everybody's overdosing and dying, who are we going to sell the properties to? That's right. I'm just... Who cares if you got a $500,000 land of property if people are breaking onto it and stealing the copper off of it? We're trying to bring the property values back up by saying Union County is no longer the epidemic county anymore, like Stanley County was. We're trying to lower that so the value of this community is still worth something. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. John Hurley. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Have you signed up?
No, I did not.
It's okay. You don't have to. I just want to, but I'll get to you, sir.
Okay.
Your name is what?
Rick.
Rick. Okay. I will get to you, sir.
Okay.
Go right ahead, sir.
Basically, I just want to reaffirm the management style of Wesley and Cody and Greg. They are on top of everything that goes on. They're involved in these people's lives. There's going to be supervision taking place, random spot checks during the day. They check everybody every day, talk to them every day, random drug test. So there's just not going to be any problem. And the main thing is there'll be no sex offenders at those properties.
Thank you, sir. Sir, if you'd like to come speak now, we hear you, sir. Give us your name and address for our record, please.
Can you put that map back up? My name's Rick Nichols at 2507 Carroll Street, 28110. First of all, I'd like to say I commend all you guys for doing your stuff. These are all graduates. That's not what I'm talking about. This is not a farm. This is my backyard, okay? I didn't get noticed 150 feet. The back of that 1 yard butts into my backyard, okay? Didn't know anything about this stuff. the thing that I see, okay, is that I live there. I had my daughter live there. I got a grandchild live there. I don't want a criminal addicts revolving through there. I just don't. And you know, I commend all of you, but the fact of the matter is, I grew up in the 70s. I know what an addict is. I know the failure rate. I've seen what happens when you get close to them. They're going to be living right next to me. Okay? I don't want that. I think they should be on a farm, or they should be a little bit farther away. They shouldn't be in an environment where you have elderly people, single women living by themselves, kids and stuff going up and down roads. I mean, you just don't do that. And then behind there, you see those woods down there. We've already seen people coming in and out of there going to the house. The other thing is, that's not true. I was driving by the house today. There was 3 trucks outside at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay? Even besides that, I just don't want that element by my house. I've raised my kids. I've stayed away from the drug element. I've stayed away from the drinking stuff. I don't want it by my house, period. Okay? I can't let my grandchild go play out back because I've already seen them out there scoping out the neighborhood. Now, whether they were doing anything criminal or not, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I don't want them by my house. Let them go by your house. Okay? I mean, I commend them for what they're doing. Okay? I think they provide a good service. I just don't want to be part of it. Okay? I don't want it in my house. I don't want to have to worry about my grandchild playing in the backyard. I don't want to have to worry about my stuff getting broken into if one of them falls off the wagon. I just don't. You know, and if you're going to do something like that, you need to put a big fence around the daggone place. Okay? Period. I mean, what's that? What's that?
Okay, let's stick to the subject now, sir. You've got about 60 seconds left.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm a voice against it.
I understand.
Okay? The fact of the matter is, a lot of the people that live down that road don't want it either. Okay? I mean, nobody come and said something to me. There was no talk about us voting. Nobody asked us, came to my door and asked me what I thought about it, or any of the stuff they say they've done. Okay? Didn't have any of it. Okay? I didn't know about this until I missed the last meeting. Okay? So I'm here now. Okay? Like I said, I commend all of you for getting through the program and everything else, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people that are getting through the program. They're not graduates. They're going through the program. If they relapse, what happens?
All right, okay.
They're down there at the house.
Yes.
Okay. Again.
We've got to have order in there.
Anyway, that was it.
Just keep it cool. We're going to get through this thing, but we got to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I think it's a moot point because you already got people moving in there. So you guys already approved it before anybody had a chance to say anything. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, the next, Mr. Brian Funderburg.
You need my address again?
All right, I think you need it again. No, we're good.
For a concerned citizen, whether it's the city or the county, I'll just go ahead and say this. His facts are wrong. You just heard that the graduates, they graduate from the farm, which is at Dale Street, which you guys did a great job of proving that. Thank you for doing the right thing. I'm asking you to do the same thing, the right thing again, because here, this is where I believe going back in time, we're going to talk a little bit about Wesley's testimony. When he got out of jail, when he got saved, and he had a child with his wife now. Most people in society, they would say, well, go live with your family. But he didn't do that. He went through what we're calling this again, transitional housing. He went through transitional housing to show that he could get a job, maintain a job, and then marry his now bride and raise his family. That's what this is. That's what several of these guys that are graduates here, that's what they're doing. That's what this is. And I really I hate that he left because I would love to share that with him. It's interesting because I know some other houses around that area that he might be a little bit more worried about than this one. But God's going to have his hand. God's going to have his hand on that property just like you saw through the testimony today of what he's got done at 303 Dale Street. It's ordained. It's going to be the same thing with this. So, as a citizen of Union County and somebody that serves the laws of this great state and has to deal with this stuff, I just ask that you approve this as well and just keep the Lord working. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matt Davis.
My name is Matthew Davis. I live at 4818 Trad Circle in Monroe, North Carolina. I'm a staff member at Ground 40. Thank you for approving the farm property. And I just want to explain a little bit about the transitional house function. So at the farm property, we teach practical and biblical application to these men's lives. That's where they learn it at. They learn it at the farm. But when they go to the transitional setting, that's where they get a chance to apply what they've learned. We all have to apply what we learn in life. And that's where they get a chance to do that. Like the man that left said, he wants to put everyone in a fence and segregate everyone. That's been done before. That doesn't work. That's ridiculous. This is where they get a chance to apply what they've learned at the farm and live and take a step up into society. All the men at the transitional houses work. They have jobs. A lot of them have children. They have significant others. But I've been to 14 programs in my life since I was 24 years old. I'm 39 now. And none of them had a transitional component to it. So basically, you're in a bubble of a program. You learn some stuff, and then they throw you out into society and say, just figure it out. Here, you have a chance to stay connected to what is the farm property, and we'll call it the farm, and have that accountability. Each one of these houses has cameras in them. They are monitored. That each house has a house manager, not one house manager for 3 houses. Each house has a house manager. And then Greg and I oversee the house managers as staff. So I'm asking you, please approve this. It is a vital part of our program. It gives the guys a chance to pay rent, to help out themselves, learn responsibility, and also a chance to give back to the farm that can get other guys coming through it. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
May I have a question?
Yes.
Okay, so when the people are on the farm, where they're transitioning now? Where do they go to transition now?
We have a restoration house on Franklin Street that they transition there.
Okay.
So we do have guys living in these houses, but they're not over the amount of men who are allowed to live in a house unrelated. They rent straight directly from Kitty Hicks. As of currency right now, we did put our placard on the side of the house. We protect that house. We watch that house. We make sure that when the guys stop by, because what he was talking about today was one of our board members went by there to look at painting one of the houses to make it look nicer in the community. Because we do have before pictures before we start messing with things. And then we have after pictures. Much like the men, we take a before picture and then an after picture. And our properties, we do the same thing. The property value where it's at right now has far exceeded where it was when we put our hands on it.
So these are rental properties, not properties that you're going to actually own?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It's rental properties.
Rental properties. Okay. Now, I do have to ask this question because we're in a type of situation where I see that you're doing good work, and I believe you are. But we also have to be concerned about all of Monroe, the other citizens as well. And this man says that he was not notified. What did you do for the existing?
We went to the neighbors, Miss Kitty, who owns the property, called the neighbors. Some people are not responsive to guys like us when we walk up and knock because they know who we are. We wear our gear very proudly. If we did go by their house and they didn't knock, he's not good at catching on to personal skills. Maybe I'm not either. But not everybody wants to talk to a bunch of drug addicts because we're just like, I don't know.
But was there an opportunity?
There is opportunity to talk to these neighbors.
Opportunity to meet with people in the neighborhood, to talk to them and explain things, because I do think that they should have an opportunity to understand.
I'll say this. I've talked to several people over there, including First Assembly of God, which is the school, and the daycare that my kid goes to. First Assembly gives us financial support. They support us fully right there. A couple of the properties we did talk to, some of our guys work at the local businesses right there, Love Plumbing, what's the other, Williams Ready Mix, which are right across the street from us. If we did go to the properties, they didn't answer. I can't help that. But we did open up our properties. We had to move it to Lee Park Church because it was raining for a night of prayer and to talk about what we were doing.
My only reservation is whether or not the property owners that already live there have an opportunity for understanding. I don't think it's fair to them for them not to know, and I don't know whether they do or not.
I believe Miss Kitty has signed the paperwork, and if it'd be okay, I'll let her explain on what she's done. Is that Miss Kitty Hicks?
That's up to her, she's asking the question.
Oh, Doug.
Whatever you want.
Well, I can say the gentleman that spoke, he did receive the city
He
mail
did?
notification to him, because I've got a copy of what's
So the city mailed out,
to the gentleman that spoke, city mail notification to him. We have an affidavit of what we mailed.
Mhm.
I can say you received.
How many did you mail out?
We mailed out, in this case right here, there were 18.
I mean, did you get in the
No,
reply?
they were returned, as well as we posted a sign on not just one property, but all 3 properties as well.
Mhm. And some of them were returned,
No, ma'am, none were returned.
but you didn't get any negative replies.
I had, on this one right here, I had a few calls just to inquire as to what they were doing. I explained what they were doing, and, I didn't get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. They were just inquiring as to what they were going to do for the
Okay.
properties.
But the property owners were notified.
Yes, the ones that were within 150 feet of the 3 properties, everybody received notification, was mail notification.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. John Payne.
I'll be brief. I just want to point something out. You're gonna go from 3 houses that are capable of being rented to anybody, who could be a drug dealer, and living in that man's backyard, and nobody could do anything about it. They'd have to try and evict him. You know how that takes a while. Then you're gonna have all kinds of problems. Versus 3 houses with a supervisor and a controlled living environment with people that are working and coming back and getting reinforced the lessons they've been taught at Ground 40 at the farm to support them. So which do you want? I think it's a pretty easy choice. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Miss Kitty, is it Hicks? Is that correct? Miss Kitty? I got Kitty L. Looks like Hicks. Is the last name Hicks?
Yes.
Okay, I got it right.
Yes, Actually, may I please, I will give you some information here that you.
Actually, ma'am, I'm sorry, you can't, ma'am,
no.
ma'am,
Can't
you
take it.
can't. I'm
Can't
sorry.
take
You have to have gotten it to the clerk 48 hours ahead of time, and unfortunately you didn't. You can talk about what's in there with the council, you just can't hand it to them.
Okay, I thought we could.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't know who
I
told
thought
you
we
that,
could.
but that wasn't from.
I
the-
I had done that once before with another council, and I thought.
The law changed a couple of years ago.
Well, I can then use their material. that
You
they
can,
have,
you can,
right?
yeah, you can
Okay.
use the Elmo, you
All
can
right.
talk about what's in there.
Would you help me put these back up? Yeah, the house, because, yeah, this one. Yeah, but I don't know whether that's so or not. That, okay, that's a house. And let me read to you. West of Keziah, checked into Ground 40 Ministry, Winston House with Christian Keziah. Now, we put this on Facebook a month before. Now, they told me that they had found out about this from Facebook. This was on Facebook in September, and we proceeded, and I had a tenant that was moving out. And then after he moved out and we got all of his things cleared away, then we had an open house right there. And this house is like, they know this house. And so it was in Facebook, which one of them commented that was their access of it. And everybody does Facebook today. I mean, you can't even plant a garden without somebody knowing you have a Facebook. But it's a long way from our party line when we first got telephones. So anyway, it was announced. There was a person on the street that when she saw Tommy moving out of my house, and we were like about finished, she called me and asked me about what was I going to do with my house. And I told her, I said she wanted to rent it for her daughter. And I told her, I said, well, I've already made a commitment. I'm partnering with the ministry, Ground 40. And I said, we are, I just have a chance to do something I feel like for the Lord. I did. I prayed a lot. I've done a lot of that with my houses. My husband and I have owned them a long time, and I've had people in there that needed help. Lots of times, their rent was not what everybody else's rent was. I've gotten some wonderful friends still today. I started to ask one to come here tonight and be with me because her daughter, she and her daughter, have been recipients of God's blessing. I'm happy to say that. And so I would debunk the fact that it was not announced and it was not known because she herself knew. And I apologize. I would have been glad to have rented her to her family. However, I may say I've been very careful. Should I just read my little thing for you? I've worked almost 3 or 4 days on this. And so, and I'll try to get it right. My name is Kitty L. Hicks. My husband and I are the owners of these houses in question for a change of usage of this property. We have rented them to families for many years, some good and some bad. Early in 2019, we were introduced to the ministry of Ground 40. A very special nephew of mine, his daddy's sitting right over there, Mr. Hicks.
Ms. Hicks, excuse me 1 minute, let me interrupt you.
Uh-huh.
I want to give you time to get through this, but we're already 3
I know, but I won't take long.
I know, but let me finish.
Okay.
I want to give you all the time I can, but I got to keep in some kind of.
I realize
But I'm going to give you another 3 minutes, but get to the point if you will,
Okay,
please.
I will hurry.
I'm not being rude, I'm trying.
Okay, I'm sorry, okay.
I don't have to, I don't like to do that.
There was some question about being the neighborhood. I really believe in it, getting here. First of all, I visited my nephew nearly every Sunday when he was in this program. And with the other family members, and they have on Sunday from 2 to 4, this is how they have family member, and they have visitation time, because they have to get to church on Sunday night. And with other members of the family, and seeing how these men were being reunited with their loved ones, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, and yes, their children. I have one that says the little twins that were up there, I would take toys down, and he learned how to play with his kids. They were the sweetest twins in the world. They called me a kitty. So anyway, and I saw them turning their lives over to God. And their 4 months, they had requirements, and they were strict. They were very strict, which I think a lot of time we need today. And they have to graduate in 4 months. They're there, and then they get to graduate. But what's next? As they said, where do they go? Back to the people that they've been getting drugs from, probably? Because by that time, some of their families have kind of lost patience, and, I've been there. And but what? Surely we all can understand that there's more needed in restoration. There's an assembly of time, assimilation back into culture, into our thing. Well, Ground 40 had a house for them, the one that they have. And my nephew was graduating, and there was no room for him in the house. Well, he'd burned a lot of bridges. So, and that house was filled. And we had a house coming open, Thomas. We had a house coming open. Wesley asked me one day, just off the cuff, I said, Wesley, because there are things we can use and we can help you. And he said, well, do you have a house?
I give you 6 minutes.
And so, at that point, I knew I had one coming open. I'm sorry. And so I said, I really felt like the Lord said you can partner with him. And my place over there is as perfect a place as there is anywhere. And I knew that these men, I've been with them, I've seen them. They've done community service work in lots of places around this town. And my house is 7 acres there. I have 7 acres of land. And these 3 houses are sort of isolated. We only touch 6 people's property, I think, in that whole thing. And the other property, 3/4 of it is surrounded by the Open Book Baptist Church, their property. And then in front of me is the highway, and on the other side of the highway is that new business that was adjusted in their
Let me ask you a question.
thing. Yeah.
I give you 7 minutes. Let me ask you a question. Do you own the houses?
I just,
I'm trying to get to where I think you're
Okay.
going. Do
to
you
the
own the
point.
houses?
Okay, to the point.
No. Do you own the houses?
I do own the
Now,
house.
let me ask you another question. What are you gonna do with them?
Well, I'm going to rent them. There's rental houses down that road, down their street.
You gonna rent the houses you're talking about here tonight?
I'm going to rent the houses again. I mean, if you all turn us down,
Okay, I understand. Okay, I understand that. I just was trying to get to the information.
and I've always been considerate of these neighbors. These boys are no danger. They have to have a job before they come in my house. They have to work a week. And we have a house manager sitting over here.
You have
I'm
sold
sorry.
us, ma'am. You
I'm sorry.
sold us.
I'm gonna cut you off. I don't mean,
Well,
I'm trying to get to the
okay,
point.
I'm sorry.
I don't mean to be rude. I'll
You're
give you 8
not
minutes.
rude.
I'll give you 3 times longer than anybody else. Thank you very much.
Please.
Thank you.
These guys deserve another.
I'll give you an amen. Thank you so much. We got to move. We got several more people. And I'm sorry. Brandon Rollins.
I will give you a minute of my time, Miss Kitty, but
I apologize.
I won't
It's a
take
hard job.
just a second.
I think we all understand that you
We
both
know where you're
support
at.
it.
Yes, sir.
We know you support us. Thank you for that.
I want to just reiterate what my brother in blue has said and what Mr. Painter said. And Miss Kitty just said it. She's going to rent these houses. The people in that neighborhood have a choice at this point. You know what's there right now. You can go knock on the door. If you live in that neighborhood, go knock on the door.
I do
I will
frequently.
let any of these guys into my house as a law enforcement officer before I let some of the people that I know and say I trust in my house. I've invited these guys into my facility, into my detention center in Lancaster to come and minister to my guys. I've got a waiting list. Listen, those guys came in Monday night, and I've got a 5-person waiting list now just from them coming in that want to take part in this. So as a council, you guys have that opportunity again to take these properties that you know are going to be controlled and you know that are going to be ran properly. Or Miss Kitty can rent it to somebody that puts 6 cars on blocks in the backyard and cooks meth or sells marijuana or sells heroin. And then you have no absolute control over it. Again, I just please beg of you to leave these properties as they are, to let them have that agreement there, and thank you guys again. Come on, Miss Kitty, let's get this out
of here. If there are no people that are in objection, I'd like to make a motion.
I've got some.
You have some
I've
objections?
got some just coming.
No, he's got some other people to speak.
People signed up. If
Yeah, I
they-
got them signed up.
If they wish
If they
to
wanna
sign
look.
up, it's up to the mayor to allow them to have their opportunity to speak. If they don't wish to speak, then council can close the public hearing and move on to whatever
Yeah, but
motions anyone has.
I've got I said,
But however, there's a few on the list.
I said at 9 at first, but I found a second page, so I got about another. I got a 3, 4, 5.
Make sure no one's on
that's-
that last
that's-
page.
That should be all.
Is that blank?
Yeah, I got.
Oh, no, there's one on there, Mayor.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to go. And that wasn't 8, 9, 10. I got 2 on another sheet.
Can I help you?
Yes, sir.
If y'all are in favor for ground 40, would y'all just stand up? You don't have to speak anymore.
Okay.
All right, okay. That put Michelle King, I'd like to recognize you this time.
Well, let me just say that Miss Kitty should be able to do with her property what she wants to do with her property. I would prefer that the property, we're talking about rezoning, basically is what we're talking about. It's not really who's gonna go in there, it's a rezoning. I would prefer that the city look at the rezoning as an opportunity, economic opportunity to again bring money into the city, the very money that funds programs such as Ground 40. And it benefits the greater good and all the residences. So that is my only statement. Again, go on record as saying I am supporter of the Ground 40 initiative. Miss Kitty can do what she wants to with her property. your counsel, so we'll see.
Thank you. Ms. Loretta,
No, I said my piece before.
all right? Is anyone who has not spoke would like, yeah, that's okay, I'm right. Anyone who has not had the opportunity to speak would like to speak. Recognize you, ma'am, at this time. Come. No, ma'am, come to the podium. You have to. But you gotta do. Name and address, please.
I'm Crystal Ashley at 1027 West Sandy Bridge Road, Monroe, North Carolina, 28112. I've just heard two statements today that it's not true, and I just wanted to make it on the record that it's not true. The city gives Ground 40 no money. The churches give, and God sends the money to the Ground 40.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who has not spoken would like to speak? I recognize you, Mr. Brown, at this time, sir.
Mayor, just for purposes of the record, I do want to note that members of council do use discretionary funds to support Ground 40. So the city technically doesn't, however, city funds through council member discretionary accounts provide to Ground 40. I want to make sure everyone is clear on that on the record so that the city is not seen as failing to provide that information.
Yes, sir.
I'm Henry Browning. I live at 2401 Waxhaw Highway. I have used some of these guys at my greenhouse. They've come last year and helped us do some planting. I used two of them last week for a day and a half. You couldn't ask for anybody to be any nicer. They do what you ask them. They don't question. We had the halfway house, I think they probably talked about, was put in my neighborhood about several years back. And I had neighbors come to me, ask me to sign a petition to keep it out of there. Well, I refused to sign it for this reason. If I don't want it in my neighborhood, who's am I going to put it in? We got a problem, and we can be part of the solution, or we can be part of the problem. These guys are doing some good work. But I have used probably 6 of them at different times. Never had a problem with either one of them. They've been polite. In fact, one of them brought his Bible, and he wasn't working. He pushed it back and sat there and read his Bible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else who has not spoken would like to? Yes, sir. Recognize you at this time, sir.
My name is Anthony Ragone. I reside at 505 Old Dutch Road. I just want to briefly say that I got involved with this ministry about 1.5 years ago. And Wesley Keziah told me one time, he said that the life of an addict is one that takes. And I learned that firsthand from my brother-in-law, who dealt with addiction for close to 15 years. And he took and he took and he took. He's no longer a taker, he's a giver. And that was a lesson that Wesley taught me early in my involvement at Ground 40. These men don't take, they give. They give to people in our community. They provide help where it's needed. And that's what they're instilled with from the moment they arrive at Ground 40. I've heard a lot of words mentioned about these men tonight. They've been referred to as addicts. They've been referred to as drug addicts, heroin addicts, alcoholics. That's not who they are. Those are things that they've done. That's not who they are. See, they're sons, they're brothers, they're fathers, they're husbands. And they deserve an opportunity for their lives to be changed. And that's what Ground 40 stands for. If you choose not to give them this opportunity tonight, you're hurting our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not spoken would like to speak?
My name's Johnny Sexton. I live at 2846 Charlotte. I am one of the house managers at one of the houses. I just like to tell y'all I have a unique situation, a reason that it's been a privilege and an honor to be able to see each one of these guys come through the program, because I was one of the originals that was with Chris Guffey when he started with John Hurley, which is one of my mentors today. And I just want to say the light that I've seen come on, these aren't drug addicts anymore or alcoholics. These are new creations through God has lit them up. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen each one of them come through. And myself have grown because of each one of these guys. And Wesley Keziah, the biggest light that I've seen come on the farm. I was there when he arrived. And I've seen the difference that has overcome Ground 40 there. Through the whole time, I've been at the Restoration House. I've been at the farm. And I've been had the privilege and the honor to go over to one of these houses over here. And one thing that I would like to say, the whole over 2 years I've been there, I have never seen not one physical altercation between these men. And that says a lot from where these guys come from. And it's just an awesome achievement to see the light come on in each one of these guys. Sure, everybody's not going to make it. There is no guarantees. But one thing that this does grow, for me, what it has done for me, is given me the opportunity to be a better father to my son, which is now incarcerated and wants to come to Ground 40 when he gets out. And I've been able to be that father for the last 2.5 years that I wasn't before. I've been a better son to my mom on her deathbed back in February. I was able to be there for her. So I'm a byproduct of the old Ground 40, the new Ground 40, and the Ground 40 that's going to come regardless. Because that's what God has done. And it is an ordained land over at 303. And I hope that it continues to grow on Old Charlotte Highway also in those 3 houses. And I wish that Miss Kitty had more time because she loves us guys. She loves us guys. She loves us to death. And we have done nothing but help those properties and do our best that we can. Thank you for my time.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not spoken would like to? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Motion to adopt resolution approving land development plan compliance.
Okay, you make a motion on, okay, I have a motion on item B.
And it's been seconded, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
And it's been seconded.
Oh, it had, I didn't hear the second.
Yes, ma'am, I believe Councilmember James seconded.
Oh, okay, I have a motion and a second.
Mayor, if I might, I'd like to have a little comment period as
All
well.
right, yes, absolutely.
Okay, let me say, after hearing all of this, and you've certainly been given ample time, and I want you to know that I support the efforts of all the people that support Ground 40. It's an honorable mission that you have. And I have a great deal of respect for your board, and your staff, and all of the people here. But I'm not going to support the rezoning of these houses. And I want you to know why. The gentleman that was here earlier and spoke against it is not the only one that's ever said that to me. I'm sure it's not the only one you ever heard it from. And there are other people in this world. They are on social media, or they contact us via the phone or via the email. And all of them that are against your being there would not show up here tonight. So I want you to understand that as a council person, I'm a Christian and I believe in your religious beliefs, but I'm a servant to the city, and I was elected by the city, by citizens of the city. And I've got to listen to them too. I can't just listen to you. So that is why I won't be voting in favor of this. I have nothing detrimentally to say to you.
Okay, anyone else? Hearing none, I have a motion in favor. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And Councilmember McGee, as he left the dais
That's
without
an
being
automatic
excused,
yes.
is a yes vote.
Okay. Item B is passed. C,
Motion to adopt ordinance amending section 156-106.
Second.
I have a second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And again, Councilmember McGee is a yes. That was made, and I believe that was
Yeah.
correct.
I believe I made it clear I was voting against
As
the
Councilmember
first
Gordon-
motion and the second,
All right, so.
and the third.
If the clerk could note then that Councilmember Gordon intended to vote no on on the motion to adopt resolution approving land development plan compliance, as well as the motion that was just heard. So those would be 6-1 votes on both.
Item C,
Motion to adopt ordinance amending section 156.98.
Second.
I have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item,
Councilmember Gordon, are you a no on that?
That's
as
a
well?
no on all three.
So all three
Item
passed
D.
6-1, Mayor. That was D.
item D.
She got D.
Oh, we did.
That D.
I thought we did C. Already done D?
So she got them all.
Okay. All right, that approved.
Mayor, if I may, along with what Councilman Gordon said, we did have opposition, and we did have people that were for it. And we're in a very tough spot because we are obligated to serve all of the citizens of Monroe. A lot of people who were against it did not come. I came here tonight prepared to listen to both sides and to go with who presented themselves. That being said, I made the motion.
I'd like to say to Miss Kitty, I didn't want you to think I was trying to put you down or put you off. We just had to move on. Amen. Hey, Miss Gray, how you doing?
I'm good.
I good evening. You need to keep jumping up there, girl. Hey, Don.
How you doing, daughter?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, man.
Listen. Great. 9 years old, full of everything.
Good luck.
Tell you what you do.
Good luck.
Thank you, man.
Good luck.
You're a good man. Appreciate you.
Basketball player, there you go.
I mean,
that's serious. I'm not.
I can tell you done about got done. You done got back in the chair. You feel like I do. I don't work all day. Come on.
Well, thank you. Yes, sir. Good to see you. Good luck. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
See you too.
How you doing, bro?
Good to see you.
Yes.
Good luck to you.
You're welcome.
You're my basketball player.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
That's right. That's right. But you
Lady Gordon.
I'm on the medical examiner's field. No. I've been doing much for you. I deal with John Holland and them a lot. They all speak so highly of me. Yeah. And I go to Gordon's. Ain't they wonderful?
Well, that's
Yeah.
a big one.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. And they speak so highly of you.
Well,
They all do.
they're
So young. They have so much going on. They're very young. They're very honest. But I go to Gordon. Not a lot. Occasionally I go there. Don't know them like I do. I lost my son to addiction about a year ago.
Well, I'm sorry.
I kind of determined not to let his name. Things I've gotten involved with.
Was that
And they just, it helps a mama's heart so much to work with somebody else.
That's what you don't know.
It helps a mama's heart a lot.
I didn't know the thing was up there in the cut. I didn't know it was up there.
I hear you.
I was calling you Gordon. My wife said Freddie Gordon.
Well, I didn't think I'd be rude to you.
You're absolutely
I'm trying to get the people.
She's got me with
He does. We keep you about 8
Matter of
minutes.
fact, I'm starting to come get mad.
Yeah. Started mine. Give you 8, though. I believe it's in my
on the neighborhood side, it's not like that. Corner sides of our property, we never got into this. I said, the only way we knew is one person was a little called the argument.
It's always been telling me.
Oh, Lord.
Well,
say it could always be able to do, and that's why I'm
Those lines are wider than that, so.
they overpowered us.
yeah, that's very true.
Actually, yeah,
Everything gonna be me. And then, but what we really said,
You neither.
when anybody can be
That's a problem. And
but you're gonna have people.
Item 16.
helpful about they were
Why
kind
not just give it to them? We want the police.
Well, go ahead.
I'm gonna try to get. Go ahead. All right, item 16, resolution supporting Nice Legacy.
Yeah.
It's, Anthony.
Resolution supporting National League of Cities leading together cities agenda for 2020 U.S. presidential election. Whereas the 2020 presidential election will be historic in scope, consequence, and in determining the future direction of intergovernmental relations in the United States, and whereas the next president will be tasked with governing more than 330 million Americans, and whereas the city of Monroe is home to 33,330 of those Americans, as is one of the 19,000 municipalities represented by the National League of Cities, and whereas the National League of Cities has launched its Leading Together 2020 Cities agenda in advance of the upcoming presidential election, which was created by a bipartisan task force composed of 28 local leaders from around the country. And whereas the 2020 cities agenda lays out 4 principles and 4 priorities that candidates for president of the United States should support prior to seeking the endorsement of local leaders, and whereas the 2020 cities agenda reflects local leaders' strong understanding of Americans' top priorities and concerns, and presents an agenda for a strong, safe, and fair nation. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Monroe supports the 2020 cities agenda created by the National League of Cities, and urges all candidates running for president to support the 2020 cities agenda, and be it further resolved that copies of this resolution and the 2020 cities agenda be forwarded to appropriate points of contact for the primary ballot, and only to those parties authorized to appear on North Carolina's ballot for candidates running for the office of president at the time of this resolution's adoption. Adopted this 5th day of February 2020. Bobby G. Kilgore, Mayor. Bridget Robinson, Clerk.
All right, you've heard the, Ms. Anthony introduce this, from the National League of Cities. If the council would like to support that, I'll need a motion.
I make a motion to adopt the
I
resolution.
have a motion to adopt the resolution. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
It's adopted. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
No discussion? No, none.
Yeah, one more.